Did you know that there is a course called Women Who Lead where you get to spend hours with me learning how to make every interaction safe, logical, fun, and memorable? Doesn't that sound like a great way to spend some time? It will put tools in your tool belt that will change your trajectory. Give it a shot. Go to www.aimwithus.com and click on courses. I can't wait to see you there.
Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. We've taken a field trip. We're in a random hotel in Tallahassee, Florida, and I am so excited to bring some productive joy to you with my new friend, Rhonda. But before we get started, I need you to do a couple things. I need you to follow this podcast. It makes such a difference. And then if you like it, rate it. Well, you can rate it if you don't like it too, but I'd really like it if you would like it and rate it. Because that's how we get discovered. That's how brilliant people like Rhonda get their name out there. And that's how productive joy gets spread, which is what I want more than anything. So do me that favor. And I promise to continue bringing really brilliant people like Rhonda here to learn from. So that's what we're going to do today. I have Rhonda Parker Taylor with me here today. She is an educator. She's a researcher. She's an entrepreneur for like 15 years, has been doing this for a minute or maybe longer. She is an author who has one book out and 4 already in the works and almost done and getting ready to go out. And 2 of them are going to come out in 2025. She's a life balancer and she has some really solid social intelligence and a whole lot of empathy. And she's our guest today. So welcome to Productive Joy, Rhonda.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited about being here. And I'm so grateful that you didn't tell exactly how many years I've been in business because you tell a girl's age. So, hey, we're on a great foot so far. And let's just roll them on out and have some courage and let's unleash not only our inner beast, but everybody out there's too.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like so much fun. I cannot wait to release some inner beast. And that's kind of what you do. Why don't you tell us in like 30 seconds or less all of the really cool reasons why people should listen to this episode? So can you grab their attention?
I can grab them and drag them across the floor because guess what? If we don't listen and we don't get the tools out there that gets us inspired and brings us joy, we are in trouble because courage is where we meet transformation. And if you don't have joy in your life, you can't transform because you're going to be stuck in a rut. So let's do it. If not, I'll drag you instead. We'll see what happens.
Well, I love that. I love that you don't want people to be stuck in a rut. I couldn't agree more. I think it's so important. And I think it's a choice, right? Like sometimes we get stuck, but we can also get just as unstuck as we are stuck if we allow it. So is that what you help people do? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you help people do?
That is what I love to do. I mean, for me, getting someone unstuck and moving into a transformational direction that to follow their purpose is the most exciting thing to do. And hey, I loved it so much, I almost didn't do it for myself because I would be out there pushing everybody else, telling them, hey, this is the direction that you're describing. Let's go look at these, resources. Let's do it. And then I had to realize that the fearless story inside of me had to be let out too, because I had dreams and that I wanted to follow. And it took my sister, my biggest sister, to say, why haven't you done this yet?
Our family does often hold up those mirrors and say, look, sis, what are you doing? So, okay, so your oldest sister said, hold on, Rhonda, you're telling everybody else that they need to do this, but you need to do it. How did you take that news? I mean, obviously you did it.
At first, big sisters don't know anything. And of course, I wanted to defend myself. And she's like, you wrote these books and they're in your closet. Why aren't you doing anything with them? And I'm like, what? And I got this client and this. I'm just too busy. She said, no, if it was one of your clients, it'd be done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you're right. She says, you're afraid to be vulnerable and fearful. And I'm like, I'm never fearful. What are you talking about? But you know what? By the end of the evening, I really had to think about it.
Oh.
How many people do you think that are out there in your audience just as fearful to taking that first step on faith that they have the ability, whether it's for a promotion, a move, a relationship, it could be anything. It could be making your own dinner. They're used to buying out and learning how to eat healthy. It doesn't matter what it is, but you have to kind of fight like, you know what, to move, in the direction that's best for you. Being intentional, being loving to yourself. It is so hard. Why do we stop ourselves from being our own self advocate?
That is such a great question. My husband and I have a company called the Intentionality Group, and it is exactly what you're saying. It helps people get to the point where they can say, all right, first of all, who am I? Right. And what unique gifts and talents do I bring to the table? And then how am I going to get those unique gifts and talents communicated with others? And then what is it that I really do for other people? It is such a cool exercise to take somebody from I'm just a fill in the blank to this is my unique genius and I can do some really awesome things with it. So I love that that's what you do. And I love that your sister is the one that pushed you to recognize that you needed to do your own work in this space. None of us want to hear that, but we all need to hear it. And I'm really proud of you for listening. So the big push that she gave you was what? Like, what did she push you to do? Because you weren't listening to yourself. You help others find that inner strength. But what is it she pushed you to do?
Well, I had been writing and journaling for years, and it was my way of creating a world and a space to understand not only, what I was observing in the world, but also things that I thought were important. Like I I would write poetry about maybe different storms that I had, gone through in my life, or I would write, I would literally would do a self-help workshop on myself every 3 years on life balance and with all my students. And she's like, why aren't you publishing any of this? You have it all in your closet. And what started the conversation was I had gone to get something that I had written for a class that I was teaching, and it had a corrupt file.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my goodness. And then I thought about what disc it was. So that's how old it was.
right.
I was like, oh my goodness, all my novels are on there. And I told her, and I've printed them, but I don't want to have to retype all
Oh,
these,
heavens no.
all these. And she's like, why haven't you done something with these? I think she said those things, and I'm like, well, and I'm making all these excuses. But what I had to realize is that still voice, maybe it was the universe telling me and empowering me to turn fear into my fuel.
Mm.
Because I was never one of those people that people would say, oh, she's going to write. Matter of fact, I was awful at writing. When I flunked first grade, I mean, literally, they didn't let us move forward, so I had to have a tutor in high school. And if it hadn't been for that tutor, I wouldn't have gone to college. Now, I've got not only my bachelor's, master's, and now my doctorate, and it all worked out fine. So all of you out there that aren't the IQ of a genius, it's okay. You'll be all right. I promise you, you'll be okay. Just step up into your own shoes. But the journey that I found was resilience.
Yeah.
Through those writings, I realized that no matter where we are in our life, good, bad, ugly, self-inflicted, somebody else, something else, life hit kind of moments, no matter what it is, if we can find that joy, which is what your podcast is all about,
100%.
we can find that, then no matter what, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have to tell ourselves that sometimes.
Yeah. So you teach at the collegiate level, and do you do mostly undergrads, or are these graduate students? What are you teaching them?
But it's both. So
Yeah.
when I first started teaching, it was only undergrad because I only had my master's degree, and it would be adjunct.
Mhm.
And I would teach all the business 101. So that's where the life balance kind of self-help workbook. I took my first road trip from Indianapolis to go to Salt Lake City. And I, got in the car and I bought every self-help book out there. And I realized that there's nothing that's just an overview on all the dimensions of your life, you know, not just your goal and your career, but, you know, your spirituality. And so I wanted to put something together for my students at that point that they could sit down in that business 101 class when you have to say, this is what I want to be, and this is how I want it to look like. And to make them think about all the dimensions and set their goals for 3, 5, and 10 years, like we normally do in those classes. And then after I got through my master's, or I was done with my master's and I started my doctorate, I started teaching at the higher level. And then now what I do is I'm what they call a chair or a mentor for like dissertations and capstone projects. So it kind of was a progression. I did have a stint of being an administrator for a local college, but that's one of those things that happen when you make transition. I had a life hit moment that, you know, was life changing, life altering, where I had to make mental health decisions for myself. And that was pull out of that environment. And I wanted to be somewhere more like a cocoon for myself. Well, I wanted to work from home before working from home was even
A thing.
you know, it was 2009 and I got a knock on the door. And it was first thing in the morning. It was a Sunday morning. And I opened the door and it was a police officer. September 19th, 2009. And that police officer told me that my son had been shot and killed at work the night before.
Oh my goodness.
And in that moment, and if there's anybody out there in the world that's listening, and you're going through something, that one of those life hit moments, not the ones that you do to yourself, because I've had those too, and you have to choose. I had to choose in a split second to lose my mind or realize that I was going to be okay. And when you do that, it doesn't lessen the grief. It doesn't change the trajectory that you're on. But I had to make that decision that I was going to take every step to make sure. And my mind went into the very childlike motion of Disney.
Yeah.
And I could hear the little jingle, put one foot in front of the other.
Yes.
I started making the changes and starting to do these things. And I realized that I had a story then that I could empower everybody out there to do their best to survive.
What a beautiful story. And thank you, Dr. Rhonda, for sharing it. I'm so sorry for your loss. I know that does not ever lessen. It's not normal or right for anybody to lose a child, especially not in a tragic way. And yet you turned that into an opportunity to help other people, to bring joy in sadness and darkness and fear, and make yourself helpful, wonderful to others. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you decided to do that. I'm sure it wasn't easy.
You know, it's one of those things that you find your own strength in your struggles. So there are beautiful things every day that we can be grateful for and happy for. It could be a skyline. It could be a squirrel. It could be the fact that you get to sit down in the evening and just chill for a second. It doesn't matter what it is. You find those little nuggets.
Yeah.
And in those little nuggets, what can happen is you can just blossom. You know, there's so many ways that you can look at it, but I look at it like sea glass. Glass that's broken and becomes part of the ocean ends up coming out on the beaches a lot of times, smooth and beautiful. And it's like a rock that's been through the tumblers. And I don't know if you ever did that as a kid. But, you know, and you make it it makes it a smooth rock. And that's what everybody goes through in life. They're tumbled around, they're tossed around, and then they realize that they're beautiful and unique, just like the sea glass.
I love that. You've said a couple things that I just want to hold on to for a second. You said you turned fear into fuel. and
Mhm.
turn strength into or strength from struggles, right? Or struggles into strengths. And I love both of those phrases because I think we have a choice anytime something happens to us or around us, and that's to cause them to be, instead of losses, lessons, right? And grow into something. And so I want to ask you my favorite question. You alluded to it a few minutes ago, but I want to ask it outright. If you had to describe productive joy, how would you describe productive joy?
For me personally, I have to look at it as I'm the energy of the storm that I'm feeling. Because I can put positive energy into the storm or I can put negative industry. I can blow it up like a tornado or a hurricane. And it doesn't matter if it's joyful moments because that's a storm within itself. It doesn't matter if it's a negative moment because there are joyful moments even in negativity.
Mm-hmm.
But we control the energy because we're the energy that produces that storm. It's how we deal with that storm. Think of the magnetic part of the universe that creates a storm. We're what brings the storm to us. It's our thoughts, it's
Mm-hmm.
our actions, it's our feelings, it's our emotions, it's even how we treat others and the self talk that we do during that storm. So we're fueling that storm. Productive joy is us actively going in and putting the energy, even when we don't feel like doing it, or even when it's the happiest moment of our lives. My husband caught me one day. I'll tell you this. When I got my endorsement from Marilyn Hemingway, and she sent for my book Crossroads, and she sent a YouTube video her people did to my office, and I was watching it. I kept playing it and playing it. I was so excited, tingles up and down my spine. I finally made it in my eyes, you know. And my husband looked at me and said, "So is that it?
Leave it to a husband to ground you, just to bring you
Yeah.
right back down to earth.
Or are you trying to do something more than that?"
Mm.
He says, "It's fine. If you just want the pat on the back from, that's fine. But if you want to really make the impact that you want to as an author, you better get busy." So, in that joyful moment, yes, I still was the first 1,000 views behind his back. I swear every time he wasn't looking, I might have listened to it again or watched it again. But he was right.
Yeah.
That energy, that passion, that wanting to not only just be a best-selling author for Crossroads, but get all the other ones out and also make it. I wanted to do a cross-genre thing with my books. I wanted the fiction novel to make us, you know, get the escape, the entertainment, but I wanted the self-help using those characters because like in Crossroads, everybody's out of balance. You've got a law and order guy, you've got the workaholic, they're all in here trying to do a verdict for a trial and they're all mentally someplace else because they're out of line with themselves. And then things start happening to them. And when we're not aligned with ourselves, then things do happen to us.
Yeah.
It may not be someone getting killed,
Right.
but it could be. You could get in a car accident. You could, not pay a bill that you're supposed to. You could do there's all kinds of things that happen when we're not aligned with ourselves. So I found in those words during my joy just as much energy as when I'm telling myself and my sister had to say, "Why haven't you done anything?"
Yeah.
Which is that still small voice, "You're not good enough. Nothing's going to happen of it. Why would you put the energy in it?" And all those negative self-talk conversations that you have, that's a storm within itself too.
Absolutely. And what a beautiful reminder that we are the energy, right? We're the storm, right? And we get to decide what the narrative's going to be. What I think is so cool though about you specifically is that you took all of these creative and wonderful ideas and then you said, all right, I'm going to produce those, but then I'm going to turn it into a lesson, a learning opportunity, a case study for my students to understand that this mental stuff matters and it affects the bottom line in that suspense thriller. So, okay, so back up because I understand how it works, but I want our listeners to get it. So, you wrote this cool book called Crossroads, and in it there are characters. Yeah, show us, pull it, hold it up. Okay, there it is. All right, so in Crossroads, the idea is that there are. It's beautiful, by the way. It looks great. And for those of you that weren't watching, go back and watch it so that you can see. But so the book itself has these characters. These characters are indicative of what all of us are facing in the workforce, right? Because you've got this business background. And then you do a case study with your students on each person and how those people interacted with one another. Is that accurate?
Yes. So Paris Pennington is the main character. She's a workaholic that works in finance. She's in the AUL building in Indianapolis, and then she gets called to jury duty.
Oh,
Workaholic. You throw anything new in their lives, and you've got a mess anyway. So she tries to get out of it, but she can't. So she gets caught up into this long week at a murder trial that she's trying to go back and forth to work, do everything she normally does, and it's not going to work. Meanwhile, you've got the other juror who is a mother, so glad to be there because from her kids. And she, it's something exciting. And then you have the law and order guy that's the prosecutor and dedicated to the law and order and the Constitution and seeing things that way. And then you have the co-defendant for the murder. His name's Billy Knuckles. Now, we've all been a knucklehead at some point, so that's why
I like it.
Knuckles. And he's dedicated to his friends. And he bases all his decisions on if he's going to be liked, if he's going to be accepted. So he ends up the co-defendant for a murder case of a 15-year-old girl. So he has to decide if he's going to turn on his friend and become a rat, or is he going to take the charge with his friend?
Oh,
So meanwhile, you have them all out of balance, and they're all in this room together trying to get through the week the best they can. And then things start happening, and we explore 3 emotions that happen when you're not doing the things that you're supposed to: anger, fury, and envy. And if anybody, a spiritual person and has studied Proverbs, anger is cruel. What does that do to your spirit? It makes you do things you're not supposed to. Maybe you're throwing things away at work to get the other person to lose their job or look incompetent. You're doing all kinds of crazy things, right? Fury is overwhelming. That's where you're going to start screaming and hollering and maybe choke someone to death. And then envy. And jealousy and envy, Proverbs says, makes the bones rot.
yeah. Yeah. It's not cute.
Each one of these 3 things caused the crimes. And following the characters as they're having outbursts, as they're having this, and they're going through their daily lives. Meanwhile, people are still getting sick and dying, and you don't know why this is happening. And you have to figure it out. It's like a game of Clue. And
Love
you're
it.
going it through, and you realize that you're following these people's lives, but it could have been you at any given point. It could be you at work that gets called to jury duty and trying to, tussle around. Meanwhile, you're eating out of cardboard boxes and, barely can get a walk in. It could be you that's the law and order guy, loyal to the family structure of law and doing things by the book. Or it could be you that got in the car with someone that was drinking and driving.
Yeah.
You guys had a great night, and it's a life-changing moment.
Yeah.
So it could be any of us at any given point. But then what do we do to break the cycle?
Yeah. Oh, I love that, Dr. Rhonda. And I need people to be able to find you. So where might they get their own copy of Crossroads?
Well, first they can go to either Amazon, Barnes & Noble, BAM, any of the major platforms, Goodreads, that I'm on there. And if you're in the Indianapolis area, I have gone into all the Barnes and Nobles that are carrying it, and I have signed all the copies.
Oh,
I know that in Illinois, there's some where I've been through Illinois, but if you're outside those areas, I hate to say, and it's been kind of cold around here lately and a little snow and icy. I haven't been traveling that much. So it won't be signed.
That's okay though. How great. So we can get our hands on this. And then if we wanted to take it a step further and go through the case study and learn more about that, is that available as well?
Yes, it is. So you can go to rhondaparkertaylor.com and it'll have all the books on there. It has all my social medias, anything that you want to do there.
Love it. Perfect. Well, I am so excited to have you on my list of people I know. And I know that the listeners are going to appreciate just thinking about things differently. I love your mix of fiction and nonfiction. And, a self help book is hard to get through sometimes because it feels dry and it feels kind of meh. But you have taken something most people love, a good suspense thriller, and have turned it into a learning opportunity. And I just love that. Well done, ma'am. Well done.
Yeah.
So I could spend a whole day talking to you, but unfortunately, people would get bored with the conversation after about 30 minutes. So we are going to go ahead and ask you some rapid fire questions. Are you okay with that?
I'll do my best.
Okay, these are fun, I think. Speaking of, what is your definition of fun?
Definition of fun is being able to laugh, not being able to relax, and have a little adventure.
Mm.
I'm not a bungee jumper. Maybe in my younger years I would have, but just a little bit of adventure to it too.
Oh, I love it. I love that combination of things to laugh, relax, and have a little adventure. All right. How do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
Ooh, for me, I have to be intentional. I have a pattern every day that I do that makes me know I'm on track, opening the blinds and looking outside, not just getting my checklist done, being able to cook some good vegetables, cut them all up fresh, throw them in a pot, and by the end of the day, it's done. You just have to live your life the best you can for you that's unique to you. If I sat down and watched TV for 5 hours a night, which somebody else may love and think that's the best thing, that's like 26 on my list of things that make me happy. I'd be better to do a puzzle.
Yeah. Oh, I love a good puzzle. Those are my I have one up on a table all the time. I just love it. It's that wonderful mindless accomplishment that I need in my life. So I'm with you on the puzzles. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
I have to talk to myself. I mean, it sounds like I might need mental health sometimes, but I have to tell myself, I have to talk to myself, I have to stretch while I'm working, I have to do anything, I have to be active in whatever's going on. And sometimes it boils down to telling God, thank you for a miserable day. And just naming it, that this is like one of the worst days of my life.
Oh my goodness. I think that was very well said. And I think we can all relate to that. All right. Last question. People by nature will gravitate towards one thing that you said in the last 30 minutes. And you said some really brilliant things. And it's such an interesting approach that we've never had before, which is so exciting. But if people can only remember one thing, what's the one takeaway that you really want people to have from today?
The one takeaway that I used to hate it when my dad would tell me is, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. I would, you always want someone else to solve the problem. You always want someone else to help, get up, figure out if that means go get something to help you carry it. Whatever it is, if it's meant to be, it's up to you. Nobody else can solve your problems. Nobody else can make you joyful. You have to do it yourself.
Ugh. So well said, Dr. Rhonda. Thank you. Thank you for choosing to share your story. Thank you for recognizing that from tragedy comes great things and that you have found your calling and you're sharing it with the world. And I'm just so excited that you decided to also share it with Productive Joy. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I can't wait to hear from everybody out there. Hey, and everybody, don't forget, like, share, follow.
Right, do all those things. Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you. And thank you. Make sure you find RhondaParkerTaylor.com and go get her book, or just go to Amazon and type in Crossroads. But y'all, today and every day that you are listening to Productive Joy, it is my hope that you grab a nugget of wisdom that can shift your perspective, that can change your day, that can make things a little brighter and a little better. And so my challenge to you today and every day is to figure out a way to turn fun into action.